Hi, welcome to my video on graphing by mapping rule on the absolute value, part 1. The order of transformation is RST. R stands for reflect, S stands for stretch, T stands for translation. And the equation that we're going to look at is y equals A, absolute value of x minus h, plus k, and we're going to complete the table. The equation y equals negative absolute value of x minus 6. Reflect in the x-axis. If a is negative, the answer is yes, it's reflected in the x-axis because we have a negative. The vertical stretch a is 1, so really there's no vertical stretch because the shape remains the same because the slope is 1. The horizontal translation is the opposite of negative 6, so the horizontal translation is 6 units to the right. And the vertical translation is none. There's no vertical translation because it got a 0 on the end. B, the equation y equals the absolute value of x plus 2. Add on 7. The vertical reflected in the x-axis? No, because we have a plus. And the vertical stretch is 1, so there's no vertical stretch. It means the slope is 1. The horizontal translation is opposite of plus 2, so it's a negative 2, so it's 2 units to the left. And the vertical translation is plus 7, so it's 7, so it's 7 up. C, y is negative 2 times the absolute value of x. Reflected in the x-axis is yes, because we have a negative. And the vertical stretch is 2, so the slope is 2 over 1. The horizontal translation is 0, because there's no addition or subtraction inside the absolute value. And the vertical translation is 0, because there's no number on the to the right. D, y equals 3 times the absolute value of x minus 1 minus 2. So reflected in the x-axis? No, because we have a positive. The vertical stretch is 3 over 1, the slope. The horizontal translation is plus 1. And the vertical translation is minus 2. So notice you change this sign, but not this one. And just to remind you, if you take 1 and sub in for x, this becomes a 0. The absolute value of 0 is 0. 3 times 0 is 0. So y is negative 2. So the vertex is your horizontal translation and your vertical translation. The vertex is 1, negative 2. E, y is negative 4/5 times the absolute value of x plus 3 minus 6. Reflected in the x-axis, yes, because it's negative. The vertical stretch slope is 4 over 5. The horizontal translation is a minus 3 units to the left. And the vertical translation is negative 6, and it's 6 units down. Y, the absolute value of y equals the absolute value of x plus 1. So there's no reflection in the x-axis. The vertical stretch is 1, so it means there's the same slope. And the horizontal translation is 0 because there's no plus or minus on the inside. And the vertical translation is 1 up. So let's reverse it. Again, you can pause your video at any time and work these out. Don't forget that. Pause your video and see if you can write down the equation. Here we go. Y. It's reflected, so that means we have a negative. The vertical stretch is 1, so I can put a 1 there, but I'll take it away now in a minute. And the horizontal translation is 4, so it's an x minus 4. And there's no vertical translation, so the equation could be just a negative absolute value of x minus 4. If there's no number here, 1 is understood, so that 1 is understood right there. And the next equation There's no reflection, so that means there's a positive. The vertical stretch is 6, so it's a 6, so it's positive. Absolute value, -2, so it's an x plus 2, because the opposite of the horizontal. And vertical translation is 3, so it's a +3. Next equation, it's the vertical stretch is yes, so we have a negative. And the reflection in the x-axis is yes, so it's a negative. The vertical stretch is 2/7, so that's the a value in front. We have a 5, so it's an x -5 -7. Again, you change this sign, but not this one. The next equation, there's no reflection in the x-axis, so it's a plus. The vertical stretch is 8, so a is 8. And we have a -9 for the horizontal translation, so it's x plus 9. And the vertical translation is -2. So that's just, we're practicing writing the mapping rule, because we're going to use the mapping rule in the next video to graph. Okay, there we go. Complete the table. Now I have an equation and I want to write out the mapping rule. Well, let's see. The mapping rule is x comma y map to x. You could have, it could be plus or minus h, and it's a y plus k. So the plus or minus h, plus or minus k. So I could have a plus or a minus here. It's just the opposite. So here we go, the mapping rule, x, y. And so we have a 0 here, so that just stays x. And we have a is 4, so it's 4y plus 3. B, the mapping rule is x comma, the mapping rule is applied to the y equals, remember the base equation is y equals the absolute value of x. And so we have x minus 6, so it's an x plus 6, because the mapping rule is the opposite. You're adding on 6 to the x value. And we got a -1, so it's a negative y, and we do not have a is 1 understood, and we don't have a number here, so there's the mapping rule. H is 0. X comma y, and we have x plus 1, so it's an x minus 1 in the mapping rule. Remember, the mapping rule is the same as the horizontal translation and the vertical translation. So we have a is 1, so we got y minus 4. Plus 1, there's the plus 1 understood. Mapping rule, x comma y, and we have an x minus 7, so it's an x plus 7, and a -2/3, so it's a -2/3 y plus 9. Again, notice this is the opposite. Other than that, you have -2/3 y plus 9. And the mapping rule, x comma y, and we got an x plus 3, so it's an x minus 3. And a is 5 plus 5y, and there's no number on the end, 0. So let's revert it. We have a mapping rule on the absolute value. Remember now, this is the absolute value unit, so it's pertaining to the absolute value. So we got y, we have an x plus 1, so absolute value of x minus 1. And we got a 1, a is 1, plus 1, plus 2. So a is 1, so there's the plus 1, same as right there. Y equals, and I always fill in the x, that's an x plus 4, opposite. So what I see here is a -3. There's the y minus 1. So again, you're changing this sign inside of the absolute value but everything else negative 3y minus 1. Y equals x, so there's nothing in here, x is not changed, so that's a negative 1 plus 6. And y equals x minus 2, there's an x plus 2, and we got a 7 times y, and there's no number on the end, k is 0. Y equals, and it's an x minus 3, and we got 5 over 4, a is 5 over 4 minus 2. 5 over 4 times y minus 2. Again, you're changing this one to an x minus 3 because the mapping rule is what's really happening to the basic graph. So that's a little review on writing out the horizontal translation, vertical translation, vertical stretch, and reflection, and writing the mapping rule from equation to mapping rule equation. So if you like my video, click the like button, the subscribe button, notification bell, visit my math website, www.mathfullyexplained.com, to find more information about me, my videos, and the content. That's the content in my on my YouTube channel called Math Fully Explained. Thank you for viewing my video. Bye-bye.